Right on radio. Right on radio.
Welcome back to Right on Radio. I am your host today, Jeff. If you saw yesterday's broadcast, you'll know why Jesse is not here, but do not go away because I have a very special guest today. She is best known on her YouTube channel as Shalom Girl. Yes, she grew up in the system. She has some amazing stories that are going to come out, and one might involve a certain guy who's making electric cars and blasting off rockets and stuff like that. The story, if you have not heard it, is actually shocking, but I don't want to go too far because we want to start off with this wonderful person, and she has the most beautiful spirit. I really fell in love with her the first time I saw one of her videos that was sent to me. So Shalom Girl, welcome to Right on Radio.
Praise the Lord. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. From the first time I saw you, I thought, wow, I got to get this person on. And so, you know what? I'd like to do this in just a standard interview style. And I want to ask you about growing up, your earliest memories as a kid, because you actually grew up in the system that we describe quite often. Could you tell me about your first memories about in that system?
Well, let's call it the B system, shall we? Do we have a name for that?
Yeah, you can call it that B system, yes.
Okay.
Well, we call it the Brotherhood, which is the proper name.
So my grandfather was an Air Force military man, fought Hitler, came home, bought house in San Francisco Bay with all his other buddies, and then raised their families there. And my mother was targeted at a Halloween party. All the girls were doped up with acid, and it was a ritual, sex magic thing on the beach. My bio father is the seventh son of a seventh son. His last name is Aragon, which is used in a lot of movies for the dragon hunters and the prince and the witches and all that. And you know what? They want you to believe they're more powerful than they are. Okay? Just so you know, they're not as powerful as you think. They're wicked and they're powerful. They're not as powerful as they want you to believe. So we have to be careful not to get too scared.
Well, they want to disarm us because they know our armament is much stronger than theirs is. So it's a deceit game, which is, listen, goes back to the Garden of Eden. The deceit started there. But so let's continue on. So your parents.
Once you flip from fear to faith, it's a whole new game.
We'll get there. I want to start out. I want to understand your story.
Okay, so my mother, she became a madam in San Francisco. So she was a mistress, a madam, a dominatrix, but she ran crews of girls. So growing up, people misunderstand this whole concept. They just think, oh, you're the hooker's kid, and they blow it off. No, not just the hooker's kid. It's different. It's a system. There's air traffic control. There's ships, people coming into the docks. There's planes, trains, automobiles. There's communication. There's police dispatchers. It's a whole B system. And once they get that 5G grid, it's going to be more deadly.
How old would you have been at this time with your mother?
Well, 1970, I would have been 5. So my first memory with them is that all of a sudden, well, I know they targeted my mother. My grandfather's Air Force. But my first memory of them was 1970. I'm going to say my school picture was like 1970, 71, those kindergarten pictures. And my first encounter was with someone who was introduced to me as Dr. Malone and Thomas Richardson. Dr. Malone ran the drug clinics in San Francisco that people know as the LSD clinics. My mother went in there and got speed freely. She didn't like acid because she was doped up before anybody heard of acid. 1964. They were just looking for cigarettes and booze at a Halloween party, but a bunch of Illuminati guys, 7 brothers, got the town girls pregnant. So, and then got a few of them in the castle in Pacifica, California. Okay, so 5 years old, I remember Dr. Malone, who I now am thoroughly convinced is Dr. Joshua Norman Haldeman, who is Elon Musk's grandfather, who was reported dead in 1974. Can I jump forward a little?
Yeah.
And I remember him after 1978, and he was introduced to me as Joshua, and I knew that May was May Haldeman, but I was not allowed to say that.
And May was Elon's mother.
May is Elon's mother, and I was introduced to her as Light, and she was at my birth. And my mother on her deathbed was putting some of this together because my mother, her whole life, so my mom was a hustler, you know, like J-Lo in the Hustle movie. My mom was a hustler who climbed that evil rank, but her whole life, she wasn't down with plotting the end of the world. she was bad, but that's where she drew the line, was deceiving all of mankind to hell. You know what I mean? She drew the line at that. Because on her when she got too close to death's door, she grabbed her Bible and said sorry real quick.
Amen. So let's go back. So what was it like? Your mother is a madam. Is your father in the picture at this point in time?
No. Remember, he targeted a bunch of girls, and then he could have just disappeared, right? Okay, they got a bunch of girls pregnant, but they show up in their lives.
So your father was part of the Illuminati people that you were talking.
Yes. And that was what my mother realized.
And he was Air Force.
No, my grandfather's Air Force. My mother's
grandfather. Okay, I want to be clear. Yeah.
My biological father is Spanish from Spain, last name Aragon. These 7 brothers show up, drop acid, get the town girls pregnant, blue-eyed virgins on the beach. They're gone like the wind. They come out of nowhere and gather up the mamas. You know, talk people into taking in their wayward girls at the castle, you know, come as nuns, whatever, right? The catechism, rounding them all up. And they said that the castle was a Catholic nunnery. They would use different excuses, but my mother was rounded up. She was in that castle pregnant, and there was a bunch of girls in there. And my mother got out. She said, F that. And she jumped that giant wall, pregnant. She said, May Musk was at my birth very soon thereafter at the Kaiser Hospital in San Francisco. And May Musk named me Rosemary. My mother on her deathbed realized that
May Musk named you.
May Musk named me Rosemary. All my life, I heard about this mysterious stranger that named me Rosemary. And then on my mother's deathbed, she confessed to me the last time that she remembers seeing May Musk was somewhere I really want to exploit if it's still there in any way, because it's the Pizzagate of California. Nobody's looking at it, I think. I mean, sometimes I want to say something I can remember, but I can't remember. I just want to say there's something super suspicious about the Brigadoon and the nut tree in Vacaville, California. There's an Arch of Baal. The nut tree is done with the Illuminati checkerboard floor, and the furniture's giant, and you're the little Alice in Wonderland. Queen Elizabeth ate there. Chuck Yeager ate there. Shirley Temple ate there. Charlie McCarthy ate there. I mean, the list goes on. President Ronald Reagan, please. And then the next thing you know, okay, so everybody loves to go there. Children, families. I love to go there. It's where I'd meet my mom. It's where I'd meet my dad. It's where I'd meet Light. And all of a sudden they close up, board it up, say, oh, we're going out of business. And they put a bunch of junk out there and hobos are camping out. And it's like, no, Chuck Yeager, Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth, please.
Yeah.
Please, the story, I'm a grown-up now, and I'm not buying it. And my brain is integrating, and praise the Lord, and I'm healing, and things are integrating. And now the memories, you know, I remember this story doesn't line up with that.
So let me just explain that to the audience. When many children growing up in the system, and most of our audience is keen to this, but there's some new people to the channel. When you grow up in this beast system, as she calls it, or the Brotherhood is the proper name, a lot of your memories, your brain is actually fractionized. They compartmentalize your brain. It's a MK Ultra is what a lot of people refer to it, but there's actually more distinctive programming depending on the giftings of the child and the different things. So what happens to survivors who come out of this is, after about 20 years of being free from it, your mind starts putting together the pieces again. And that's kind of where we're at. Now, you've been out of it for a while, and you've got some things very clear, but there's other things that are still just resurfacing.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Well, let me back up. So let's see. I remember meeting Dr. Malone, San Francisco Drug Clinics. But then I meet Dr. Haldeman. Now, I've been saying I want to disclose this right now because I just want to be honest as I go through this journey. I've been saying 1978 to 1983, right? Because I didn't want to miss anything. And my school records have disappeared. Things are disappearing off the internet. I'm being scrubbed. But I want to make it clear that I may have added an extra year before and an extra year at the end. But I'm definitely sure in 1981 is the middle of the dates I'm talking about. Because I was trying to, whenever I was in Napa, a lot of times it would be in the summer, so there's no record. But I just want to be clear, it may not have been 1978, it may have been 1979. May not have been 1983. It may have been 1982.
So you put a border on, and it's in there somewhere, but you feel it's probably 1981.
Right. I look at a grave. I remember what happened that day. I was with May. There's the grave marker. So you can't change that. CERN isn't CERN isn't doing the Mandela effect. That's a lie. Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay, so let's not get too off track here.
Okay.
I want to go back. So you're growing up. Your mother's a madam. You've met these people. You know about May now in retrospect. But what was it like growing up at that time? What sort of things did you see? And bring me through a little bit of progression in your age as you go on.
Okay. So I was approximately 13 years old. I was born in 1965. I was born in San Francisco, California, USA. I was approximately 13 years old, maybe 12, but I think 13. Hooker's Ball, San Francisco, California. For those of you that don't know what that is, it is what it sounds like. It is an illegal, elite, giant. It's a hooker's ball. I remember that Jerry Brown was supposed to be there. An entourage went by.
Former governor of California.
Former governor. Now, I didn't see him, but I remember being like, "Oh yeah, that's Jerry."
Well, we know the elites go to these things, so this would be
Linda
a ball
Ronstadt,
where they've got all the women there, and the elites come in and have their way, and probably do very perverted things.
Right, and this particular one was in the Civic Auditorium Center. There's many others held, and they got
the Civic Auditorium.
The Civic Auditorium, and it was a 3-level thing, and there was Meatloaf was playing. Meatloaf's a band. Let me sleep on it, baby, baby. Remember him? So Meatloaf was playing on one level. Whatever. They were just.
So you're there as a kid watching essentially this big orgy.
Yeah, it was a big orgy. It really was. And my mom, as bad as she was, didn't like to do cocaine in front of me. So she would ditch me, and I would just, roam around with whoever they assigned me to be with. I was excited to be there. I was happy to be there. I was so happy to be off on a family event with my mother because I was sick and a kid and messed up, and I didn't have the right guidelines. I mean, I knew in my heart sometimes I wanted to be a good person, but sometimes I wanted to arise to the occasion and please those people around me, So, but I always had something in my heart that told me it wasn't right.
Now, you had said, I believe in one of your videos, that you were kind of like a servant in the system. You could explain that to me a little bit. How were you a servant?
Okay, so let me give a little bit of ground. So there was a movie that Brooke Shields was in. I think she was 11. She was a little girl called Pretty Baby, and she was a child growing up in a whorehouse. Well, it was kind of not exactly, because my mother kept lots of houses, and our home base was our home base. So, but there was a child growing up in a whorehouse, and they auctioned her off in Louisiana. And I remember my mother saw that movie, and her friends and her were doing coke one night. Said, "That's a great idea. The girls are getting big enough. You ought to do, you know." And that was like, okay. And she was high as a kite, and somebody was pushing her into it. Now, see, my mother, this is the part I don't understand. Okay, so I was supposed to be auctioned off at the Hooker's Ball. I was scared because one of the girls that worked for my mom, Eleanor, I have a gorgeous picture of her riding white horses in front of the pyramids saying, come, Mary, we'll find you a sheik. I was a little girl. I was like, no, I'm scared. I don't want to go. But I remember somebody saying I could get chopped up. Somebody said, no, Claire, don't, they might go to somebody, and, those Muslim guys, they're really rough with girls. The Zodiac killer was out. He was chopping up girls.
So let me just understand this for a second. So you're 13 years old. You're at this wonderful party, which you were looking forward to, but you were actually going to be auctioned off there. It's all the elites there, and this isn't that uncommon. And I'm not going to make any presumptions, but considering the lifestyle your mom is leading, she probably didn't need a young teenager around to take care of. So auctioning off and getting the money, being someone who is pursuant of money, obviously having multiple houses, as you mentioned, really being a go-getter. So as a kid, being sold off, and you're not being sold off at a young age, you're at an aware age.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know before you went to the ball that you were going to be sold off, or did you find out when you got there?
It fizzled out, and then it didn't happen.
Okay.
So I think my mother was being handled. And I can't remember who it was, but Thomas Richardson was in our lives, and he was, I guess, the handler.
Is that a name anyone should know?
How do I say? Tom was the recruiter, I believe, for the CIA, for the hookers. I knew when I was a little girl hearing talk that Tom's parents were Nazis smuggled out of Germany. I knew that he, and everybody made fun of him, like he fell ass backwards into what he was doing. I think his parents were brought over here in Operation Paperclip.
Okay.
Tom, like I was.
But not a famous name. Okay, so let's just continue the story
Richardson.
from where you were. Okay.
If that's his real name, you know, I love him like a drunk uncle. He was the good cop in this crazy thing. He would smooth things over when things got ugly. He would take care of everything, just meet you, buy another ranch, buy another house, buy another Jaguar, no problem. See ya. You good? Shove your money your purse full of $3,000, and I'm out of here. And they were just quick and easy. Tom just took care of everything. It was like a big CIA machine funding an experiment, because they were giving away millions of hits of acid in San Francisco. My mother turned into a madam, would pick up bundles of speed. I was with her once or twice as a child, but Dr. Malone did a surgery on me when I was a little girl, only comparable to Kathy O'Brien. And I don't want to talk about it, but I'll tell you that. And if you want to do your own research, and that's why I believe
our audience is familiar with Kathy O'Brien. We haven't done a show on her, but yes, most people are familiar with it. It's come up in our things. Are you okay? Do you need to take a break?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm powering through it. I wondered why the Lord allowed me to go through so much, but it's only so I could share the truth, because I'm a tough cookie.
Well, and the Lord's going to be glorified before the end of this. I just want to paint a picture. Listen, the theme of this show is live right in the real world. You have to know what the real world is. The real world has been hidden from the world for so many years, and it's coming out now. So now, as a child, I want to get to the Elon stuff.
Okay.
Because that's the first video I saw of you, and you had known him as a child. And why don't you tell about that one particular experience that you made the documentary on your site about?
All right, but let me just close something.
Sure.
It was supposed to be auctioned at the Hooker's Ball, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen, and I just went to the party, and the next thing I know, I'm there's an arrangement and a meeting, and May comes and talks to me at a table with some other very important people. Now, it was arranged. I go be with her, but yet she asked my permission. So she was made out to be my hero, because all of a sudden now I'm not getting auctioned off to a creepy guy going to cut me up. Now I'm going to a nice white lady with a cute house. Get it? Now, you know what I mean? I felt
So you
safe.
actually went to her house then?
Yes.
Okay.
But I didn't live with her. I didn't live with her. They set
She
my
was a
aunt-
neighbor?
It's weird. They said everything was staged, because I look back now and go, that doesn't make any sense. So my aunt, one of my real blood aunties, lost her butt in Europe. They went and blew all their money in Europe for a couple years and came back broke. Everybody was mad at them because they blew a lot of money. And all of a sudden she's friends with May Musk and gets a new house, a cute little house right across the street. Well, May didn't live there yet. To me, the thing is that they owned that. They built that street in 1940. Of course, this was all planned before I was born. So I looked at some of the records, the city records. Okay, I get sent over to my auntie's, a meeting with May Musk. Somebody says, will you watch our kids? Will you watch my friend's kid while we go on a prison visit? And I go, oh, your kids? Because there was this lady, Imelda. I go, oh, your kids? Because I thought I was going to watch everybody's kids together, a big pile, because sometimes people dumped all the children on me at one time. And that's how I ended up being a nanny. I play guitar and love them. So she said, no, this kid's special. He's coming from Africa. I thought he was going to be a little black retarded kid, excuse me, but I was like, okay, a special little kid from Africa.
Well, and this is in that time, those are, yes.
Sorry, that's the language. We were so politically incorrect.
Look, I grew up in Compton in the early 70s, so I can relate.
So they asked me if I will, and then May comes, and it was a big deal. Living with a coked out mother, my hygiene wasn't great, and I had hookers hand-me-downs, okay? Even though we were rich as could be, you know what I mean? I was not cared for. I was hungry, it may have been a Playboy mansion, but there wasn't a door on the bathroom. So, who wants to go in there and take a shower? You know what I mean? So all of a sudden I was in a cute little place, and my aunt cleaned me up and got me some pretty clothes that weren't hooker hand-me-downs, Fredericks of Hollywood. Now it's normal, but it wasn't normal then to look like that. And and May met with me at the table. She said, and that's the first time I met Elon. And I'd like to tell you something that happened that day. I've never told anybody, okay? The first time I met Elon. So May and we met at the table, and she asked my permission, which I always think is part of them getting me in bondage, because I agreed. Even though I was a child, even though I was procured, I agreed.
And they always ask permission.
Do they? She always did. And nobody in my life ever did. So that's different. I remember that coming to him. So the first time I met him, and then they sent me off to hang out with him. And he was in my aunt's house. So my aunt loses her butt. All of a sudden she gets this cute little house on Penny Lane. And, Napa's a pretty prestigious little place. And then I go off with the little boy and the women, and I call them, I can't tell you what I call them. Actually, there's a cuss word in it. But I go off with the little boy, and we're playing, and he's skipping around like little guys do. He was tiny as a 2-year-old, tiny. He's skipping around doing little skips like when a deer's born, little kids skip and do little things. And he came over to the window, and he was looking at something out the window, and the sun was coming in the window. And I got down on my hands and knees, and he was trying to say something to me. I was like, what do you see, honey? What do you, I thought it was a bug or in the window or something, a bug, or he's pointing. And I got right down there with him. His eyes were black. His eyes were black. And I was like, that's not normal. Like for a minute, they turned black. And I remember that fear in your soul and bones. So I remember that, and I've never told anybody that happened.
Wow.
Then I
And
forgot.
it's funny, we've been seeing, the acting pedotus with black eyes and stuff like that, like the pupils looking black. People are
Right.
starting to catch on to these things. The eyes are the windows to the soul.
And they weren't always black, but they were black when they should have not been black. The sun was coming in the window.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first clue. So now I did, I asked Jesus in my heart when I was 5 years old once. A babysitter led me in a little prayer. But, but I didn't even know the word blasphemy, but I could feel something going on sometimes with them. Like I was already afraid. My aunt told me, don't piss them off, please them, do anything they say.
Well, you just said something really interesting, which brings a whole new light, and I use that word advisedly, to this story. You said these little prayers, and they might not have meant much to you at that time, but you actually said prayers to God beforehand. So it sounds to me like his hand of protection has been on you, although you were exposed to a lot of stuff. Look, you didn't get auctioned off, you didn't get that, you started to get better clothes, and things started happening. And so, okay, let's go back to where you were. I just wanted to make that comment that it sounds like the hand of protection was upon you.
It was. God was, huh? He always had me. And, if I would have known it was going to be okay. I mean, he told us it was going to be okay. He told us, fear not. Like Tiffany told me 365 times or something. Why didn't I believe him? Because I was so afraid my whole life. And now telling the truth, excuse me, but I have a little less fear. I feel better than I've ever felt on that fear level. It's almost gone. When I should be panicking, like worried about a drone hitting me in the brain any minute. Jesus, the faith and the fear level have flipped.
All right. And so just whenever a new name comes up, I need to clarify it for the audience. So when you're referring to Tiff, you're referring to Tiff who works with the show.
Okay, your moderator.
Well, she's more than that, actually, but she's very important to the show.
She's precious. She is so precious.
Yes. Yeah, she is a gift. There's no doubt.
Okay, so first red flag, his eyes are black. Now, years in the future, I did psychedelics and I saw my eyes do that in the mirror. Your eyes get big when you do mushrooms, black like that. Not exactly like that, but like that. And I remembering that little boy and thinking, was he on mushrooms? No. And then seeing people petition to get microdosing legal. But, because I've known shaman who told me that they microdosed, or that the grandma shaman microdosed the children as they were leaving in the Indian school tribe in the morning, give a little spoon to everybody out the door. Like, man, really? So I thought, did they do that? Was whatever, whether the mother did it or the child just had black eyes. But I've wondered about it. I don't know, but I know they were black. And that's not
so I've never seen an indication of drugs making that happen.
Not like that.
No, that's demonic. Would be my opinion.
Yeah. So, okay, that was the first red flag. Let's see. So she asked me, now this is a trip too, the permission thing. So then May, who called herself Light, and I've never called her May to her face. Never.
Just
I never
light.
called her Light, only Light. And like, I wouldn't live to see the next day if I ever did that. Like, do not, under penalty, do not ever say her real name. And I wasn't supposed to know her real name because she was in the Helter Skelter book. My aunt had a copy, and there were plenty of copies at thrift stores for 10, 20 years, and now they're not there.
So she was actually mentioned, she was the May in Charles Manson's book.
Yes, but you can't find that book. It's been reprint. There's reprints that say first edition, but they're not the one I saw for the first 10 years.
Okay.
So there's reprints, and they don't say second edition. They say first edition, but there's a picture of May missing. So, okay, I was babe. So she asked me if I would babysit. And we just called it babysitting. And this was all done under, you know, the language has changed. Like I look back now, they use the word slaves. They use the word, don't. They use the word slaves. But for this, the language must be babysitting. I am the babysitter. So I never use that language on myself. Okay. She asked me if I would babysit while she went to see Charlie Manson. I always thought that was strange that she would tell me that right out. You know, why would she tell me who she was going to see? We all knew who Charlie Manson was. I always thought that was weird that she disclosed that. You know what? But that was part of sabotaging me, because if I ever shared what I was doing, people cut me off right now and went, oh, you're a Manson. Oh, and they got the heck away from me. Because it's, you know, because there's something wrong sometimes. I get it. I'm socially awkward. But once I said Manson, I was cut off. Church people disrespect me. You know, if I shared I was trying to leave that, nobody, that they just kept it at Hooker's daughter and a Manson. Like
So
they
the
could,
social safety network that's supposed to exist was never there for you.
no. It was there for them to do what they wanted.
And just to be clear, when you were asked to babysit, it was because you were essentially a slave.
Yes, thank you. Yes. And those are the words everybody else used, but not me. And so, but I want to share those words that they have.
No, that's very important, because you were a slave to the system at this point.
Yes. So I was at my aunt's and happy to be there. Again, May Musk is my hero. And I'm watching this little boy, and I'm told things like he's the chosen one, whatever that means. And so I was babysitting him, and May was going to, I think this, I don't know, I watched him a few different times. She didn't do like a bunch of things at once. She'd do one thing at a time. She would go take van loads of televisions to the prisons. Oh no, the battery is low. See, she would take van loads of televisions to the prisons. And I said, why is she doing that? And they said, she's creating prisoner armies, which is not something I could ever fit in a sentence in my life. And I said, why is she doing that? And they said, she's buying future chaos, creating prisoner armies. And
that seems to be playing out right now.
Right. And the lady
California.
And the lady that's telling me all this, she is the grandmother of the Santeria. And now, and she's the mother of the prisoner armies. And so now we're what, 3-4 generations, we're a few generations into those prisoners. They're having babies on the system. They're having they're, you know, they got the prisoner, the shot callers in the prison. They go out, they run the drugs, they run the hits. So this is May Musk. Can you see May Musk going to San Quentin, having a conjugal visit? Because I thought they were involved because I was a little kid. I didn't see the beast system. I just thought, oh, she's his girl, right? Because I was a kid. I didn't know. But now I realize. So I saw a Rogan show where he talked about the Charlie Manson CIA connection. And now I realize there's documentation. So this is panning out.
Let's go back to that time when you were babysitting him and tell me what happened there.
Okay, I got to get a battery. I was babysitting him, and May had a lot of ancient artifacts and stuff. He didn't have any normal toys, and he got into his mother's trunk. I always called it her African trunk because she told me she's from Africa. And there was these little rock statues in there, you know, like little, you know, action figures. And he would set him up in a certain way, like a little Stonehenge on his bed, and his room was dark. It's always dark in there. And even though his room faced the street, it was like blackout curtain on that side. Like, so he couldn't see out, and I was the house almost across the street. And he set him up in a certain way. And you know when a little kid's sneaking and you still see that they're sneaking and they're trying to be sneaky and you think it's cute. You know what I mean? They're trying to hide something, but you know they took a cookie. He's kind of being like that happy, but it was wicked. And he said, call me Moon. He said, Mom, come play with my friends. He's so excited. And I knew something weird was going on in there. And there was wind and energy. And I like peeked in the door. I was scared, man. I peeked in the door and something was wrong in there. And it was like, there was something happening. I don't know the language to describe it, but like.
And how old do you think, how old would he be at this point in time?
By the record, he would be 7 or 8. But he was
7 or 8.
tiny, 2-year-old, like a baby that just learned how to walk. Like, so later I would wonder and doubt myself, is he one of his grandfather's lab experiments? You know, because I go, is he human? I asked my aunt, she's like, I don't know. Those Illuminati. Okay, he opened up something, a portal, a Stargate, whatever, but he was excited and he was jumping up and down.
So
And
he
then,
was able to open up a Stargate in his room.
whatever you want to call it, it was a different
Yeah,
dimension.
a portal. Well, portal would be the actual name.
And I've been so embarrassed to say it out loud that everybody would laugh at me or lock me up. You know, I only told my aunt this. I've never told the counselor this.
No, people would think you're crazy. It's only now that we're really learning about this. And, you know, Jesse's actually done decodes on how to, you know, who's in charge of the portals and stuff like that. But there's also methods on how to open them that she has shared.
When I talk about it, I get kind of defensive and I get like, oh.
No. You've got a friendly audience here today.
Okay. And I've never discussed this with anybody in a grown-up conversation. I mean, I've told people that were like, enough. I don't want to hear anymore.
Well, I want to hear it because
Okay.
because God's going to get the glory at the end of the day here. So
God is so good.
So tell me what happened. Something's not right. Something's scary in that room. Describe what you see and what happens.
I went to the edge of the doorway and I peeked in there and I was afraid just to peek. And there was something happening in there, like a sci-fi movie. And there was something, he set him up like a little Stonehenge on his bed. And he was tiny, like I told you, so tiny. And he was jumping up and down and he was saying, Moon, come play with my friends. Okay, that right there says he knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't like he accidentally opened a portal and didn't know what he had friends. So I peeked in there and I was so scared. I'm embarrassed to tell this. It's so ridiculously weird. And he was being lifted and he was starting to go. He was being lifted and like he was being lifted and he's being sucked in. I know this sounds ridiculous, but my aunt told me don't let nothing happen to that effing little kid. And normally I would never let anything happen to a child that was watching. I would run between them and a pit bull. And I said, but the way she said it, I said, why? And she goes, he's going to rule the world someday. And I'm like, what? Him? What do you mean? Why? And she said, don't you know nothing? They're the Illuminati. She would always do that to me. But she'd say, don't let nothing happen to him. He's going to rule the world someday. And I was like, that kid? You know, so I grabbed his little arm and I got sucked in. I got sucked into, it's like we went up and then we went down. And it was dark in there, but it was glowing. And I can only tell you that when I remember my peripheral vision because I was afraid to look at it because when you're a little kid and you look at the cartoons and there's a bad boogeyman in the Scooby-Doo and you see its glowing eyes, it's like, don't look at its eyes, he'll get you. And I remember that whole, oh, if you don't look at their eyes, they can't get you. And I was being sucked in and sucked down and I had his little arm. And it was weird because like there was no bottom. And there were these creatures in there and they were giant and they were semi-shaped like humans. They were glorious. They weren't like Smeagol's or any creepy little demon dudes. They were like beautiful, ancient creatures that moved in a different time. And they were giant. And like they had a different head. Like there was a bird head and like a cat head and a jackal head. And I would compare them, because I'm not super educated, to like Egyptian type of things, to the types of things May had, little artifacts of. I'm not from that region, but
Well, this also describes angels and devils in the book of Revelation. With multiple heads, different animals pointing different ways.
Yeah, the angels have many faces.
Look at the guards of the gates of the Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah.
Even alone, like that's what sounds like what you're describing.
And they were beautiful but terrifying. They weren't on my side. I'm on Team Jesus. And but I was told not to say that name over there. And
well, of course not, because they would flee.
My aunt told me never say that name over there. They don't want to hear Jack Black about your Jesus. And I said, because I remember when I got saved, I wanted to go save everybody. And she's like, don't you say that name over there. She said,
okay, well, let's finish the story, and then I want to go to your conversion and how you got saved.
Okay. So we're coming down in there. One of them grabbed me by the throat. And I closed my eyes, and I had him. And I was tiny, like a little rag doll compared to it. And it was holding me up like that. And I cried out. I felt like I couldn't talk. And I cried out, Jesus, save me. And it stopped, and we flew back. And we flew out of there, and I still had him. I had his little arm. And we flew back, and we rolled out of his room and out of the hallway and into the living room. And I, if you've ever fallen off a merry-go-round and you woo, and you stop yourself, and I stopped, and we grabbed the ground, and I was I just felt dizzy, and I looked up at him, and he looked up at me, and we're on the ground, we're looking at a bug, and he looked up at me, and he goes, Moon, why are you not like my friends? And I was looking at him what the hell do I say to that? Excuse me. I was
but that's probably appropriate considering what you saw.
My friends. And I said, well, it's scary in your room, Elon. It's dark. Well, they started calling him Elon later. They switched his name. And I remember the difference. So he tried to feed me to his friends, and he knew exactly what he was doing, because he called me to come play with his friends. Those things and that. And I said Revelation 10, but I think it's Revelation 9. But I think maybe he's the demon from the Apollo from Revelation 10. I think maybe he's a clone.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. But eventually things will be made clear on that.
Yes, I don't want to hear the railing accusation.
There's no doubt that he has an important part to play in what is happening in history right now. I personally think he's just more on the technology side, to be honest.
Okay.
That's just my thought. I don't know. And I want to be clear. I don't know. But
right, I don't want to just make accusations either.
He's very brilliant on the technology side, and who knows? Maybe he'll be the inventor of the mark, right?
That's another thing. Can I share that? I was told about him.
Sure.
Okay, after he did that, opening the portal thing, I didn't tell what he did. And then I asked one of my the head mother of the Santeria, and I think she's the head mother of those people at our southern borders, they're calling them in. Okay, they paid for this a long time ago. But I said, is he the Antichrist? And she didn't blink. She said, no, but he will present the mark. And when you see him do that, the stage will be set.
She said that?
She said that. The stage will be set for the Antichrist to step forward. So August 28th, 2020, Elon Musk presented the Neuralink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the mark of the beast the image of the beast to be worshipped? Are they the same thing? And if that was true, would that make him the false prophet? And and if that was true, wouldn't that be a trick of the devil to give us a false prophet who's an atheist, rock star, supermodel girlfriends drive sports cars and tunnels around rocket ships. Boy, that's one tricky false prophet.
There's lots of theories, and people, because of his stature in the world, people are going to be thinking a lot of different things about him. But the fact is we don't know at this point. God has not revealed anything conclusively to us. So how did you get saved out of all this? How did God actually win your heart over, and when you really became the person you are now?
It's reckless love. Remember that movie Groundhog Day, where the guy gets another chance and another chance and another chance and another chance? He tries it every which way. He tries it crazy. He tries it being good. He tries it being bad. But God never gave up on me. And I knew that I didn't want to be with those evil Luciferians, because I remember telling my aunt, because when I said, what are they doing? And they said, May's Lights driving TVs to Charlie Manson and the crew over there, buying off prisoners. And I said, well, that's cool. Someday if I go to prison, I want a TV. I mean, that's a dumb thing to say, but that's what a 13-year-old would say in the crime family, right? Because aren't you, this is what we're doing, right? And my aunt says, no, it's not cool. And I thought, well, why are we doing it if it's not cool, right? She said, no, it's not cool. You don't want to owe them anything. Someday that she's going to call in a favor.
That's right.
And my aunt was, I think she was getting to the end of the joy of being bought off by the devil. I think she was tired of dancing with the devil at that point. And I thought, well, why are we doing it if it's not cool? I want a TV when I go to prison. Dumb. Okay, when did I get saved? I was sneaking to church all along. But yet, you know what the church did? The first time I ever walked into church when I was a little girl, I was 5 years old, after the doctor did a surgery on me in San Francisco. Lived in the same house. There was a big fancy thing at a church next door to my house. And my nanny let me go. I was 5 years old. I went to this thing all by myself. I could get across the state all by myself if I wanted to at 7 years old.
Well, back then, kids were allowed to go.
It's freaky to think I would never let a 7-year-old take 7 bus transfers.
No, well, back then, people didn't lock their doors either.
Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, I went to a church, and they passed around the communion. We all took the communion. They passed around the plate of money. I didn't know what to do. I took $1. Somebody slapped me. First church service. Okay, I get slapped. Okay. And then, I don't know, a little birdie died, and I think we put it in a mailbox, and I'll said a prayer to mail it to heaven. You know, little thing, having a little funeral for your kitty cat. I wanted to be like that. I would see the kids going off to catechism, and I wanted to go. I wanted to go to God's school. The most beautiful message is that God's not mad at me, but the church seemed to be teaching me that God was mad at me. And then when I rented a downstairs room from somebody, or downstairs house, but we shared a washing machine. And I got evicted for using a washing machine on a Saturday because they said God was mad at me. It's a Sabbath. I'm like, that's not the God I want to run to. I think they're misinterpreting what he is. You know what I mean? That was religion. That was religion. And so that's the God I serve, is the God of love. God is love, and God is light. And in him there is no darkness, and there's no shadow of turning.
So when did it become so real to you that there was no turning back?
Okay. Well, after Elon did that, I was sneaking. After Elon did that, I was supposed to spend the night at a girlfriend's house, and it turned out we were kids. It's like 15 or 16. I don't know. I was a teenager, but this girl I knew from school, and it turned out she had a client. She was a prostitute, and she was so professional. Couldn't, you know what I mean? I mean, I was raised in it, and I didn't even see it coming. And she kicked me out. She had to go. And I went and wandered the streets of Napa, and it was raining. I was too embarrassed to go back to my aunt's. I thought maybe I could find some trouble because I was a kid. And there was a church open downtown in Napa, and they were doing a marriage seminar. So there's husbands and wives on a little marriage thing, you know. And I wandered in there, said, "Can I use the bathroom?" And there was a man in there and a wife who, he was like Keith Green, just like a Keith Green guy, just like, oh, used to be an old biker and he got saved and he loved Jesus. And he goes, "Honey, let's go talk to that girl." And then they ended up talking to me and praying with me and getting my phone number and giving me a ride back home to my aunt's. And they stayed in touch and they took me to church every Sunday. If I showed up, I'm sorry, I'm going to be straight up with you. I mean, if I showed up with booze on my breath or stoned, they took me to church. They just kept taking me to church. They never condemned me. They just loved me. I mean, they tried to take me to the, you know.
That's beautiful.
It just kept coming. They didn't throw me at the DHS. They didn't call CPS, who's just going to do it their way. They're going to do the same crap somewhere down the road. So they just loved me. They didn't try to fix me. They just loved me. And I'm so thankful. And then I gave my heart to Jesus, and I got baptized by a pastor named Baba Jones at Assembly of God in Napa. And I called there the other day, but they don't have my baptismal record because I was looking for dates. And then somebody anonymously paid for Bible camp. And I snuck off one weekend and went to Bible camp. And they took us way up to the mountains of Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe. Beautiful up there. People.
Beautiful up there, yeah.
Beautiful. And there was some friends of John Wimber's up there. Do you know John Wimber? I talk about him a little bit. He started the first Vineyard Church. Vineyard's good music. They were at Calvary Chapel.
Yeah. They were very charismatic with the fire, and yeah.
They got a little trouble for that, but be zealous and repent. So there were some friends of some famous people was up there, friends of my pastor, I guess. And they said they got a prick in their heart. I was praying, "God, please give me somewhere normal to live." In my head, I just thought I was working for Satanists, and my aunt sold pot but worked at the church. I was just trying to be one person. And I was praying, "God, please give me somewhere good to live so I could be Jesus-ly." I was up at the altar, that last night of camp. And some people I didn't know, and they look real classy. They came up, and they were very wealthy, influential people from Los Angeles area. And they came up and they said, "We are both being led by the Holy Spirit to ask you if you need a place to live." And I said, "I do." And right. So we prayed about it. They said, "What's going on?" And we didn't use the word human trafficking back then. That's a new word.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see myself as that. I just saw myself as a weird situation, really weird, hard to describe. I babysit for Charlie Manson. That's all I could figure out how to say this. And anyway, I got in their car and we drove a few hundred miles to my mom's house. My mom was high on the couch watching Saturday Night Live. Probably coked out of her mind. She was kind of a little bit retired. She thought she had farmed me out to good people, that I was in a good way. I stayed at my aunt's. I worked for the other people. She didn't realize she was being played by the Illuminati. My dad was somewhere involved in all this. May Musk was playing my mom. My mom's sitting on the couch having cigarettes, and we show up, and they introduce themselves. And my mom said, "What are you doing here?" And we were at the ranch up in the Sierra Nevadas where my horses and some parrots were. And I told her, "Mom, I asked Jesus in my heart, and I want to go live with these people in LA." And she said, "Okay, buy me a couple cartons of cigarettes on your way out of town, drop them off, I'll see you. Call me." I said, "Okay." I was just a kid. So she basically said, "Yeah, just go get me some cigarettes at the bar before you go." And back then, a 13-year-old could go to the bar and buy cigarettes. I don't know. I did. Did you?
Yeah.
And we picked up the cigarettes, and boom, I went to LA. And these people were friends with John Wimber, who's a very charismatic, prophetic, godly man. And they made an appointment for me to go see John. And so I went in to see John Wimber. And John was laying hands on me and praying for me for deliverance or whatever, trying to get a feel of what's going on. And he jumps back. And he says, "Little girl, what do you know about the Antichrist? And everybody's looking at me. And I go, well, I don't know about the Antichrist, John. But I go, but I've been babysitting a little boy that will present the mark of the beast, right? And he goes, whoa, right? Everybody's, whoa, right? And he said, wow, I'm sad I won't live to see it, but you will live to see it, and you will warn the world. So we didn't know what that meant. Nobody knew the name Elon Musk. That little boy, Ellie. And I called him Ellie. Oh, and the Lord made a way out too. When May set me up to blaspheme God, God always made a way out. I didn't even know what was happening when the first time.
There's so many parallels, like with Jesse. Jesse was very high level in this, obviously, but there's so many parallels with what your story is and what her story is. Like, God always had a way out for you, and God always provided a way out for her as well.
Yeah, because when May was leaving the first time I watched him alone, I said, what's his name? And she, she has an accent. She was avoiding me. It was weird. And I was trying to look at her lips. She said, his name's Elyon. And I said, what is it? And she said, call him El. It means God. And I said, and I just felt like choked, like something. It was blasphemy. That's what I felt. I didn't know what to call it. And I said, well, I'll call him Ellie, like Ellie Mae Clampett. I like the Beverly Hillbillies. And she looked at me with those steel blue eyes that could see right through you. She just looked at me like, what the heck is wrong with you? But I said her real name out loud, Ellie Mae, which is weird. It's kind of a little sign of wonder going on, right? And I'm all, Ellie Mae. And she just I just felt like dumb white trash around her. She's so classy. But God said in my heart when I prayed about talking about this, because I was scared I was going to get some pronunciations wrong. God said, just go in the truth. Go in this thy might. Like when Gideon said, I'm the least of my brethren. I'm the least of my family. And we're the least. God said, go in that. Just go in the truth. Just tell the truth. Burps and farts. Tell the truth.
That's right.
Yeah. So the first time I ever met him, she told me to call him God. And I was like, I can't call your kid God, lady. I'm pretty sure he's not God.
So, but I want to finish up so you're in this church now, and you've told them a bit about your past, and this is really where your conversion was complete.
Yes, and John Wimber's The First Vineyard, which is very musical. He used to be a member of the Righteous Brothers, which was set to open, I think they did, for the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles came to America. And John was very charismatic, and he was a musician and just a good guy. And when it got too scary, he could giggle, like Tiffany, like how she could giggle a little bit. She doesn't get so scared of the boogie. When it gets too weird, she's like, oh, John taught me to not be so afraid. And he was such a blessing because, again, he didn't judge me. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't throw me at the DHS people, which is Department of Health and Human Services, and CPS. Because this is a spiritual problem. This isn't a physical problem, really. It's a spiritual problem.
So you know what? This is so amazing. I definitely have to have you back on, but with Jesse, because I want you guys to compare some notes as we go forward. But before we end, you had a sign and a message that you wanted to show the world, or the Right On Radio world. Explain what this means to you and to the audience, please.
Okay. So like I told you, when I met Elon, his name was Elyon. And I'm kind of worried I got that wrong too, because I found out that there is a pagan god named Elyon. There's a pagan of the Sumerians. I'm like, oh, what if that's the right? Whatever. I was like, well, Lord, I sort of, I don't know whether it was this and this or just this one. Because I always thought she was stuttering. So what I want to share with the world, the most important message I could share is that this is the name of the true, El Elyon means God, God Most High. Oh, let's see if that is.
Yep, no, it's clear. So for the audio only audience, it literally just says Elyon, which is spelled Elyon, and her sign says God Most High.
Yes. Now that is the name of God in Genesis and other parts of the Genesis 14. And so Jesus says in Luke 21 verse 8, "Be not deceived, many will come in my name." Well, Jesus is the maker of heaven and earth too. There's only one maker of heaven and earth.
Well, Jesus is the Word, and the Word became
flesh. Yes. Yeah. So, and Jesus said, "Many will come in my name, be not deceived, go ye not after them." So now the name is Elyon. I always circle that Y because they took it out. Now,
that almost says Ellie as well. Just a strange coincidence because you just call him Ellie.
It is. And she let me get away with that. And so, but that's God's real name. And God kept sneaking up on me at Bible studies. And in the Bible, I bought a Hebrew Jewish Bible and it had that name in there and I'd slam it shut. I'd be like, "Oh man, what's he doing here?" And the Holy Spirit snuck up on me and said, "That's not the little boy, that's me. I want you to know he's the imposter. I'm the real deal." Do you know what I mean? Like the Holy Spirit was trying to show me, don't despise that name. That's my name. He's the imposter who is coming in my name. And so so I wrote Gonzo Shimura a lot of really cryptic letters. Thanks, Gonzo. You translated really well. Made me sound smart. I wrote Gonzo a lot of really cryptic letters, and I said, in one he did a show on called What the W, Elon? I guess I told Gonzo at Face Like the Sun, if Elon adds the Y back into his name, so it wouldn't be Elon, it would be Elyon. I want the world to realize what's happening there, that he is declaring himself God. And so I felt really urgent in my heart about this, and I wrote Gonzo a bunch of letters, and he did a show. All of a sudden, Elon tweeted, "What the W?" So it has begun. He's playing with letters, but if he did that, I hope I've sabotaged it and gave y'all a heads up that I was a bug on the wall a long time ago, and I want to expose them and thank Jesus for everything he's done in my life. I want everybody to know God's name, so if an imposter comes, they could call it out. I hope I said that right.
Amen. Well, if you read the Bible and you believe the Bible, you will know the imposter when the imposter comes, because there's very significant events the imposter is going to try to imitate, but he cannot duplicate. Not to the extent where God will do it. So listen, thank you so much for being on Right On Radio today. And to the audience, just remember to keep us all in your prayers, and include Shalom Girl in your prayers today as well. And, today being a very special day, being Friday, have communion today. Have that dinner, break bread, drink the wine in remembrance of our Lord, and, celebrate Passover, which has really been on my heart. And I want to thank you for watching Right On Radio. We'll be back on Sunday. There's probably going to be another episode on the in-between. So, there we go. She's showing pictures of
priestly duties.
Yes, priestly duties, the chalice, and the bread. The Ark of the Covenant is there. Well, praise God. There's the candles. Praise God. Thank you very much for being on here, Shalom Girl, and we'll see you next time. Remember, love your God, love your family, love your neighbor, and make a difference in your community.
Right on, right on, right on. Right on Radio.
Right on Radio.